Okay, the last thing I wanted to show you this week with regard to modeling is how you can use deformers to help you model. And I'm going to start off with my Rubik's Cube shape, and really quickly I'm going to scale this up. And I'm going to make some sort of robot shape. I'm going to hit G, pull it out, G again to repeat that, and maybe make some arms on this side. Hit G, come in, G, come in, G, scale it up, G, and then maybe come down the same way. So the extrude tool can be a lot of fun. This isn't about the extrude tool, but I just need some geometry here. And G one more time. Okay. And alright, so I have a little robot guy here, and to work with deformers we're going to need lots of geometry. And what I mean by that is I'm going to save this guy and I'm going to duplicate him, and in this one I'm going to put in more geometry with the insert edge loop. I'm going to put in 3 more divisions on his legs, maybe another one on the waist, one through the chest, a couple on the arms, on the neck, maybe 2 in the head. Okay. Alright, so you see the difference here. We've got one that doesn't have many and one that has a lot of different divisions. Alright, so what is a deformer? A deformer here is going to be found in your animation menu in the deformers, and you have different types of formers. The first one is a lattice, which creates a box around your geometry. So number of divisions, I'm just going to put 1, 1, and 1, and apply that. That didn't seem to work. Let's reset settings. Edit, reset. Let's apply that. Okay. So it makes a box, and essentially what happens is you control the box. It's called a lattice, and I grab lattice points, and as I do that, it's going to manipulate the geometry. I'm not moving the geometry itself. I'm moving the lattice, and it's kind of deforming that geometry. And it's a different way of tweaking your models instead of going to on a face level. And how much it deforms, it really depends on how much geometry you have, meaning how many lines. Like this one, I can really curve his knees, but on this one I probably can't, because I don't have any geometry there that'll bend So see how his legs go together. So that's why I kind of made the two different ones here to show you. Deformers only work if there's geometry to deform, meaning edges and faces. And if you have large edges, that face is not going to be able to deform on a micro level like these because it just doesn't have the subdivisions there. Alright, so undo. Alright, so that's a lattice. Lattices can be animated. I could take this whole lattice and scale it up or out, and it's just like scaling the object. Or you can select different groups within a lattice, and it scales the underlying geometry. So kind of a neat tool. To get rid of a lattice, you can go to Edit, Delete by Type History. Sorry, Edit. That should have worked. I think I have to have the object selected, not the lattice. Edit, Delete by Type History. Alright. Now, so that's lattice options. Of course, the more divisions you have in your lattice, the more control you'll have. But sometimes you don't need a lot of lattice points to be able to deform your underlying geometry. Another deformer clusters are useful. I'm going to create a lattice. And a cluster is a group of points. They can be lattice points, they can be vertices, but I have these four here, and then I can create a cluster, and it puts a little C there. So this, and sometimes the lattice, that C is hard to control, or hard to select. But that cluster is controlling those 4 points that we had assigned to it. So if I don't have the lattice point selected, I don't have the geometry selected, I have the cluster selected. And notice how I can animate just that cluster. If I want to do a head turn, I could say I could set a point there, I could come over here and rotate it and set a point here, and that one lattice, or that one cluster, is controlling these lattice points, which are controlling the underlying geometry. So it's kind of neat. Had you tried to keyframe that geometry by moving vertices around, it would have been a lot more difficult. So clusters can also be made of, in that case I did lattice points. In this case you can cluster a group of vertices in the same way. So let's take this whole arm here and create a cluster, and I can take that cluster, and as I move it, it's going to move all those vertices with it. So if you want to do some kind of stretchy arm deal, that's how you do it. Now clusters can get a lot more complicated in that you can assign partial influences. Like right now, that cluster has 100% influence over every vertice that I originally selected. However, I could weight paint those vertices. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm just kind of introducing the idea so a cluster is a type of, and they are hard to select. Sometimes there's a hierarchy of selection, like a preferential selection, and clusters are way down on the list. So if I draw a selection, and it's going to select the geometry before it selects the cluster. But alright, another one I want to show you. Let me delete that cluster. I can select it. Alright, and as you delete it, it goes back to its initial state. Another one is some of your nonlinear deformers. So let's try a sine here, and as you notice, it's going to come. Let's try that again. There we go. And just hit create, and as you notice, there's a rod that was put in his back, and as you manipulate some of these attributes on the sine wave, you can kind of manipulate your geometry. And again, that this could be animated. Alright, so that's an interesting one. You have different ones. That's a sine wave, and you can, this is going from side to side. You could twist. If I rotated this 90 degrees in Y, and I'm manipulating that geometry through that sine wave. So it could be great for modeling. There's another one and you can put multiple deformers on a single object. There is a twist, and I'm going to create a twist geometry, and the attributes are going to be in your input. So start angle, end angle. So I'm twisting this, and the more geometry you have, the smoother that this twist is going to be. So if you only have one plane or one face from top to bottom, you're not going to get this twisting motion. So I'm going to delete his history and apply a twist to him. Create, and you notice his twist is a little smoother because he has more faces, more edges to be able to be manipulated. And there's squash and stretch, several here, and I think low bound is kind of it determines where the twist starts. So if you only wanted his top half to twist, you could do that. Kind of interesting. There you go. That's kind of a first introduction to a few of the deformers. So go in here and play with the lattice. Try to make some clusters. Maybe play with some of these bend, flare, sine, squash, and just these nonlinear deformers, and see what they do. And there's some other ones I'm not going to get into, but maybe I would like you to play with these a little and use these in your project this week. That's it.